1891, Dr. James Naismith created the game of basketball in Springfield, Massachusetts.
I called the boys to the gym. I showed them 2 peach baskets I'd nailed up at each end of the gym. And I told them the idea was to throw the ball into the opposing team's peach basket.
This recording of Naismith is found inside of the DeBruce Center on the campus of the University of Kansas. As I listened to the history of the game's invention, my eyes were drawn to the piece of paper in front of me. On that parchment, Naismith had documented the 13 original rules of basketball. Naismith is revered at KU. His name is plastered on the court of Fog Allen Fieldhouse since he was the Jayhawks' first basketball coach. It's a place where many young basketball players dream of competing. Wayne Simien was fortunate enough to live out that dream.
I can think about the first time running out of the tunnel in Allen Fieldhouse, a place that I grew up watching games, a place that you see on TV, a place that's filled with, over 16,000 fans every single game, and to be in awe of it, and then to be one of the guys to actually, be on the court, was extremely satisfying.
Simien comes away with it. 4 seconds on the shot clock. Down to 3, and he switches it.
The game Naismith invented has been good to Simien, and Simien was good at the game. However, basketball didn't fulfill everything in Simien's life.
I was trying to act like I had it all together on the outside, but on the inside, I was wrestling and longing, for something better.
Welcome to BYU Radio's Big Stories, telling the amazing and inspiring tales from the Big 12 and beyond. I'm your host, Cleon Wall. Our episode, Wayne Simien, Called to Greatness. Just over 30 miles from what some call the Cathedral of College Basketball lies Leavenworth, Kansas. This city is home to the 3rd oldest military base in the United States, several prisons, and a Hallmark Cards production facility. It's also where Wayne Simien grew up.
I had a phenomenal upbringing, 2 parents, Wayne Senior and Margaret. My dad played college basketball. My mom was a volleyball player. They've been married, 43 years. They were factory workers at Hallmark Cards. They were there for 40 years. 2 great parents, but then also immersed in an environment where discipline, hard work, and respect were fully ingrained in your daily upbringing. And so those things served me well when it came to the discipline and the hard work and the respect that was needed to excel in anything, especially the sport of basketball. And then I'm right down the road from, one of the blue blood power programs in all of college basketball. And so once I began to excel in that sport and obviously was exposed to the high level of play that was taking place here at the University of Kansas. I was a kid and I dreamed of being here. I can remember the players playing in my driveway acting, like I was Danny Manning and Richard Scott and, Ray LaFrance and some of those guys.
But none of the guys Wayne just mentioned were from Kansas.
Historically, they had gotten their top talent from outside of Kansas. And so the kids from Kansas were typically seen as like the role players or the backup players to the more highly touted talent from these other locations. And, that was something that I came in and I really wanted to change because I wanted to show that players from Kansas can play at a high level, but also no one should care more about this place than the kids that grew up, watching it and being around it.
Simien, who eventually grew to 6'9", first had to play well enough to catch the attention of the Jayhawks coaches.
I think I had, realistic expectations of how difficult it was going to be to play at a place like Kansas. And there were some mile markers that I knew that I had to hit as a high school basketball player. And I think as I got a chance to kind of hit those and the more and more the reality kind of came to the forefront, like how, wow, this could actually happen.
He impressed Kansas head coach Roy Williams by leading Leavenworth High to a state championship in his junior season. In his senior year, he was named Mr. Kansas Basketball and a McDonald's All-American.
And so that's when it became, hey, Kansas is the only place that I'm really wanting to get to. It's the top of the food chain as far as my collegiate basketball ambitions.
In his freshman season for the Jayhawks, Wayne battled future NBA players Nick Collison and Drew Gordon for playing time. He ended up averaging 8 points a game for a team that lost to eventual national championship Maryland in the Final Four. And despite playing fewer games his second season, he still averaged 15 points and 8 rebounds a game for a team that lost to Syracuse in the national championship.
Someone who was, born, right here in this area to go and to play at the highest level and to contribute at the highest level was a big honor.
Going into his junior year, Wayne was ready for a breakout on the basketball court.
I mean, I was just basically a young college athlete whose identity was fully wrapped up in basketball.
Bouncer to Simien for the quick jump look, and he's got it.
The highs and the lows of that, the approval of people, and just living, kind of a wild lifestyle on the college campus. And I found myself having everything that the world says should make you happy, during that time. But yet I was bored. My life was broken.
One day, while sitting on some steps in the area of Kansas's campus known as Wesco Beach, Wayne was approached by a guy named Eric Fish.
He was a random guy to me at the time, but little did I know he was a campus minister. And he came up and sat down next to me and began to ask me sincere questions about my life. And we engaged in a sincere conversation. And then he began to tell me how Jesus Christ had transformed his life. And I remember dude, I don't know much about the Bible, but that sounds like a Bible story, man. Stuff like that really happens. And he looked me in the eye and he says, yeah, and God wants to do the same thing in your life too. And I was really intrigued by that. And I asked him to tell me more.
The two began spending more time together. And for the first time in his life, Wayne started reading the Bible.
The life of Christ on the pages of the gospel was so much more than who I imagined him to be in my head. And so much more than the way pop culture had framed him. And so I was really undone by that. And then I got a chance to get around some other Christians, both peers my age, but then also some older guys.
I was a campus director for our campus ministry at KU during that time. My name's Ryan Hickman. So I'm a pastor at Community Church in Topeka, Kansas. And so we had a couple of guys. One was just this kind of nerdy musician, and the other one was actually an exchange student from, I want to say, Taiwan. And I had heard that Wayne had a conversion, and then Wayne kind of hooked up with these other two guys so you have, this all-American, basketball player, and then you've got this Taiwanese exchange student and this kind of nerdy little musician guy. And I see the three of them at a campus meeting, and it was like the oddest mix trying to figure out how did these three guys, come together.
And I'm like, wait a minute, the life of Christ is in these guys. They're actually trying to live this thing out, what's on these pages. And it seemed adventurous. They were filled with, again, passion and conviction and purpose and real joy, not circumstantial joy that I was basing my life upon where, man, if I have a good game, I'm going to be feeling really good. And if I'm having a bad game, I'm going to be down. And so I saw that life in them, and I was like, wow, this is the life that I want. And Jesus is the type of leader that I need to surrender my life to. And that's what took place July 12, 2003. Between my sophomore and junior year.
I became a Christian my freshman year at KU and had an encounter with Jesus Christ, and my life changed pretty dramatically.
John McDermott is the senior pastor at Morningstar Church in Lawrence.
My wife and I found ourselves thinking, we really need to start a church that reaches the college students and the community so that college students can have a more well-rounded experience, that they'll know how they can be a Christian and live as a Christian outside of college.
Wayne started attending Morningstar the same summer as his conversion.
As many people know in Lawrence, Kansas, KU basketball is highly thought of, and the people that are involved in the basketball program are often kind of thought of as other than kind of people. And so his first Sunday, he came to church, and at the end of church, there's Wayne Simien stacking chairs afterwards. He really wanted to do things authentically and really developed a servant's heart.
I'm not like a groupie KU basketball fan, so those types of things just don't affect me. For me, it was more, hey, here's a young man who has just given his life to Jesus, but knows very little about what it means to live for Jesus, knows very little about what it means to live for the kingdom of God. So for me, it was more just, man, what can we do to help Wayne become the man that God wants him to be?
The first people that I engaged, and they stayed engaged with me. They challenged me. And I think as a competitor, I like that. I think that if someone would have made it comfortable and made the gospel palatable and made it, kind of fluffy and watered down, I probably would have balked at it. But I think that they were brutally honest, and I think they were trying to call me up to a higher way of living, a way of living that I wouldn't have been able to accomplish on my own. Certainly not without the Lord, and certainly not without other people.
As Wayne's faith in God grew, so did his prowess on the basketball court.
Simien gets the rebound. He's going to turn and take the shot, and he gets it.
He was the team's leading scorer and rebounder in both his junior and senior seasons, and he was a consensus All-American in his final year in Lawrence.
Simien the jumper. Wow.
In his last game in front of the Fog Allen faithful, Wayne scored 25 points and grabbed a career-high 20 rebounds in their victory over Kansas State. However, it was his 25-minute speech that truly captivated the crowd.
I was like, man, this is a pretty big responsibility, and having just become a Christian and want to do all things unto the Lord, my mindset was more of, hey, how can I steward this in a way that is more impactful than just me thanking a few people. It was terrifying. I wasn't a great public speaker. There was obviously the risk of, being ridiculed or booed or being disagreed upon. There was the risk of, being made fun of, or, all that was still very, very much alive. But the way that I saw it, it was worth it. Right? Christ gave it all for us, on the cross. Why not give it all for him in every type of moment we have, both big and small? And so it was great to be able to have that fear replaced with, conviction and courage, from the Holy Spirit, to be able to see that moment, materialize again into what I hoped it would be.
Yeah, I think it was probably one of the most significant events that's taken place in Allen Fieldhouse. And I say that as somebody who's a KU basketball fan, who's watched some of the greatest games between KU and Missouri. That was one of the most significant moments, because you have Allen Fieldhouse, which many people think of as a religious shrine. And it was finally a moment in which God was given his rightful place, in which he was glorified.
I heard stories of pastors playing it on Sunday morning. It was that good. Some probably may not have agreed with what he said, but I tell you what, it ignited people's hearts. And wow, there's a man that knows what he believes, and he knows who he believes in.
Once I began to be more committed and outspoken, some people thought that, hey, man, you're being a little bit too bold and upfront. The way God wired me, I'm an all or nothing kind of person. And, and I went all in. Like, I literally surrendered my life, to him. And how can I not be, vocal and bold and wanting to invite other people into something that's been so life transformative as a relationship with Jesus Christ.
Wayne's faith-filled bold moves would continue after he left Kansas. Coming up next, Wayne goes pro and then gives it all up to bring people closer to God. This is Big Stories from BYU Radio. Hey everyone, Cleon Wall here again. I'm inviting you to check out another BYU Radio podcast. It's called Deep Blue. It's where you get the true stories of BYU athletes and coaches from their own mouths. It's hosted by my colleague, Jason Shepard. Last season, they had great interviews on Deep Blue, including Cougar quarterback Gary Bohannon. He teared up quite a bit talking about his son and what it means for his boy to watch his dad play. Also, BYU swimmer Jordan Tiffany, who quit swimming due to mental health struggles. He talked about how he was able to get back in the pool again. More great conversations for season number 3. BYU running back Hinckley Rapati will talk about his tear-filled journey to BYU. Former BYU tight end Chad Lewis, he's going to reflect back on that special 1996 BYU football season. And BYU basketball players Richie Saunders and Fuseni Traore discuss their unique relationship. It started way before they got to BYU. Please subscribe and listen to Deep Blue with Jason Shepard wherever you get podcasts, or check it out on the BYU Radio app. This is BYU Big Stories podcast episode, Wayne Simien, Called to Greatness. Kansas-born Simien lived out his childhood dream of playing for the Kansas Jayhawks, discovering his faith in Jesus Christ along the way. He was never shy about sharing his beliefs.
There was, mixed responses, but that certainly didn't deter me in the least in my own pursuit of becoming the man that God called me to be, but then also inviting others into that.
Wayne then took his talents and his faith to South Beach as he was drafted by the Miami Heat.
To play with teammates, with guys that I grew up watching. I had a Shaquille O'Neal jersey in high school. I had Alonzo Mourning jersey, that I used to wear to school. And now I'm sitting literally in between. I got these guys to my right and to my left and having to guard them and go against them every day in practice. And, I didn't think it could get any better. And so I was, living in Miami, new Christian, all the trappings of the city of Miami, and being a 22-year-old NBA player were there.
One of the phrases that we like to use sometimes is new levels, new devils.
Ryan Hickman is pastor at Community Church in Topeka, Kansas, and ministered to Wayne while he was in college.
There was a plan that he even put into place where he knew, man, I'm going to need people to walk alongside me as I'm continuing to build my walk with God. And so he would fly people out to stay with him for a week at a time, just to hang out, pray with him, talk with him, go to dinner after practices and games.
It didn't matter what city I was traveling to, man, I had, a Christian brother that I can call and say, hey, man, let's go grab some dinner. Or, hey, man, things are getting a little bit too, rough in the hotel. Hey, man, I'm just going to come sleep on your couch. I'm grateful that, I approached it with an intentionality.
One time, a friend of Simien stayed with him while trying to start a church in Miami. That friend eventually introduced Wayne to Katie in 2006.
She asked me what I did, and I was like, hey, I play for the NBA team here in town. I play for the Heat. And she was like, hey, how long is that going to last? And, what are you going to do for a real job? And so, she was not impressed with the whole athlete thing whatsoever, but, had a sincere, heart for the Lord. And, long story short, we were married later that year.
But before they wed, Wayne and his Heat teammates won the team's first ever NBA championship.
That first year was unreal because there were guys in that locker room like Zoe, like Antoine Walker, like Gary Payton, who had been at it at a high level, at an all-star level for years and had never come close. And then, I walk in, my first year and get a chance to be a part of a team that did that. It was great. I would say probably the most formative time for us actually happened during the off seasons, because during the off season we would come back here to Lawrence and we would be engaging in campus ministry in the same way that we were reached on campus. We would be reaching out to young students and young couples and kind of mentoring and discipling them. And it actually made our heart come alive, more so than, going on to the next basketball season.
Wayne played in only 8 games during his second NBA season due to complications from a salmonella infection. Before his potential third year with the Heat, he was traded to Minnesota and subsequently released. Simien spent the season rehabbing a knee injury, but did not secure a spot with an NBA team the following fall.
I had an agent, and he was saying, hey, these are the opportunities out there. Hey, you can either wait for the next training camp session to come around to get back into the NBA, or have an opportunity for you right now in Spain. Hey, would you be open to it? And so, we went there and played. Played for about 8 months for a full season there, and had a great experience, and it was awesome.
When I would meet with Wayne, I would always tell him, Wayne, you are much more than a basketball player.
John McDermott is the senior pastor at Morningstar Church in Lawrence, Kansas.
Your calling, it's not basketball. It is now, but that's not your ultimate calling.
We'd been, having conversations and talking, while he's overseas about what he's going to do and what he feels like God is calling him to do next.
Our heart and our passion for campus ministry grew far more than our heart and desire to stay in that profession. I don't think it's an overstatement to say, hey, we felt called.
Some people thought Wayne was making a mistake.
Like, hey, wait, what are you doing? You're 25, 26 years old. You're at the peak of your career. There's still plenty of money to be made. Hey, be a professional basketball player for 5-6 more years, then go do the ministry thing later. So there was criticism and things of that nature. And the thing that helped me was that my identity and my value and my worth wasn't tethered to my basketball career. When you feel like you have a call, is far greater and carries more weight than a casual criticism that you would get from a bystander, and so we were faithful in doing that, and it was worth it.
Simien decided to return to the community that fostered him during his time as a Jayhawk great.
For him to come back and to begin an athletic ministry was just kind of seemed like the normal course of events of where God would take him.
What Wayne wanted to do is to give kids from all economic backgrounds an opportunity that if they wanted to give of themselves and work hard, that he would help them to achieve their goals in terms of their athletics. And so it first started with basketball, it went to baseball, and then flag football.
My sports background, and that certainly opened some doors, but by no means were we going to limit the gospel message just to reaching athletes. And so it was great to be able to expand that, and probably healthy for me, just personally, to get outside the athletic bubble and the athletic realm, and to be able to engage and serve and to work with people from all walks of life.
We had a college ministry, and we merged the college ministry with that athletic ministry, and we just kept the name Called to Greatness because we like that name.
Wayne's campus ministry was never limited. He was involved in a bit of everything, including the day he met Brendan Downey.
I'm standing outside the dorm, cars pull up, you got mini fridges, you got futon couches, you got luggage, all this stuff, and I just approach them. Hey man, can I help you and your family get move some of this stuff out? Which naturally leads into me being able to tell my story, and what happened as a student here. And so there's some intrigue and some curiosity there. And then actually for the next, I think it was about next 17 days in a row, I have some type of engagement with Brendan, whether I meet him in the dorm for lunch, whether we go play basketball together, or I have him over to my house, something, we're engaging 14, 17 days in a row.
Wayne was really the one that helped him walk through those things and prayed with him and spent countless hours teaching him how to read the Bible and encourage him. It was a real natural progression for Wayne of man, this is what Jesus did in my life. This is what Jesus can do for you.
Long story short, he ends up, giving his life to the Lord later on that semester. The next thing you know, he's starting to identify classmates and roommates and different things like that he can share his story with. So then he begins to win some of his friends to the Lord, and some great success starts to happen there. And then he graduates, and next thing you know, he's like, hey, Wayne, I want to come on staff. I want to do this, with you guys full time. And now Brendan is at a neighboring campus at the Kansas State University right down the road, and now he's our campus director, and he's leading our campus work there. His life is transformed. We become dear friends. Now he's got a family, and now he's going to serve other people in the same capacity, and there's no explanation to it other than the work of God.
He used to lead our chapels, pregame chapels, when I was here as a football player.
This is A.J. Steward, a former Jayhawk running back and current running backs coach for UCLA.
I just thought it was really cool, that a guy who was, as great of an athlete as he was so passionate about God, and it seemed genuine and it seemed tangible. He was one of the major keys to me feeling confident that I could really, take a step in my faith, and and made it feel real tangible for me. And so we just really hit it off, and we would go have lunch and things during my time here. And then when I graduated, we just stayed in touch, and he was actually there the day I got baptized. I come out of the water tears, crying, all that. And the first person I give a hug to is Wayne, and I'm just like laying in his chest. He's, you've seen him, how tall he is. And I'm like laying, like face in his chest, just like bawling, crying. It was, like I said, a kind of a defining moment, in life. But he kind of let the situation die down, and then it kind of like roasted me a little bit. Dude, what are you doing all that crying for, And that just like explains the type of relationship I have with him.
While working on KU's campus, Wayne's relationships expanded significantly.
We had a transition of leadership here recently, and was invited to be upon the search committee with Chancellor Doug Girard and identifying who our next athletic director would be. And thankfully, we were able to identify Travis Goff. And as he came here and found out that we were aligned in so many ways in his vision for this place, he thought that it would be good for me to be a good formal team member here on his staff. And I was excited to do so because I was so excited about the direction he was taking this place.
Wayne's official title is Associate Athletic Director of Engagement and Outreach, a role that encompasses fundraising and strategic planning.
I still do a ton of student athlete and staff development, and that kind of encompasses, mentoring, ministry, culture, competitive excellence, things of that nature, specifically with the student athletes, coaches, and teams. That's my real heartbeat, man. That's probably the thing that I enjoy the most.
Wayne's role with Called to Greatness has evolved since taking on his new position in the athletic department.
More from kind of an oversight and, a support role type endeavor. But yeah, the mission's the same.
Prior to Wayne's employment at his alma mater, he experienced a full circle moment.
Let's take a long glance to the southwest corner of Allen Fieldhouse as we retire the game jersey of number 23, Wayne Simien.
Once again, the Jayhawks were hosting the Kansas State Wildcats. Wayne was being honored in front of the Fog Allen faithful, and he was asked to give another speech.
It was certainly shorter. I was more concise and poignant with my words, but I think that the heart and the intent behind it was exactly the same.
But never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that my name would be hanging up there. It was never a goal of mine. It was never a dream of mine. But as I see it there now, it's still unbelievable. But even here in this very moment today, I really feel like it's not about me, because I've had so many people in my life that have helped me in so many ways to achieve this honor here tonight. And it's because of people like that it's really inspired me to come back here and to be that same thing to other people as I mentor and do ministry here on campus and in the city of Lawrence. And what I really would hope that my legacy here would be is not just someone who grabbed a bunch of rebounds and scored a bunch of points, but I hope that I would be remembered as someone whose life was miraculously transformed by Jesus Christ during my time here. My jersey remains up there. May the name of the Lord Jesus Christ be lifted high above it. Thank you so much. I love you all.
I don't think we've even begun to see what God has for him.
Here again is Morningstar senior pastor John McDermott.
He's like a gift. And I think that's really, and I don't say that flippantly or lightly, but I think that he still has a lot in store for him.
He has an incredible ability to bring people together. He's a servant leader.
Community church pastor Ryan Hickman believes Wayne could do just about anything with his life.
He could be a business leader. He could be a political leader. He could be a church leader. It really kind of depends on where he feels God directing him in the future.
I want to be faithful to who God is and who he's called me to be. And look, spiritual boredom doesn't exist when you read the Bible and you try to do what it says. And it is an adventure every single day in marriage, in parenting, in my daily work here. I want to see the way that Jesus led. I want to see the way that he loved. And I want to try to go and do that. And I want to give him all the credit.
Wayne Simien, Called to Greatness, was produced and written by Whitney Sheffield and Cleon Wall. Music and post-production by Kevin West. Thanks to ESPN for the highlights. Make sure you watch BYUTV's big stories by logging on to BYUSN.com. Big Stories is a production of BYU Radio.